Want to live righteous, but I gotta maintain. Block bleeders. Shalom, everybody. How y'all doing? Welcome back to the next episode of Reading with Shalom. What's up, baby? I'm Shalom. I'm out. We here with part 20 of Reading with Shalom, and we're picking back up in the Black Jacobins. We on chapter 12, man. The Black Jacobins. The Sea of Pages laid to us by C.L.R. James. The Tucson Louverture, the San Domingo Revolution. That's what we in, man. We in chapter 12. The bourgeoisie prepares to restore slavery, man. We've been kicking it like kung fu. We've been handling our business, man. So we're trying to see what it is and what it ain't and what we can and what we can't. And since you have breath to breathe, you have everything you need to succeed. If you have breath to breathe, you have all you need to succeed, man. So let's succeed, baby. Let's succeed in rowing through chapter 12 today. Or at least rowing through at least half of chapter 12. That's going to be the objective. Let's roll, and read through chapter 12, man. Let's get it. Let's get it. Let's get it. I hope everybody's doing wonderful today. Hope you up and at 'em. Hope you got some oomph about you. Because I sure got more oomph about me today. Today more than I've been having the last couple of days. You know, and I'm glad I got that little oomph back in me now. So, shit, we got to get it. I got to get up and get it. I've been up, laying in my bed, scrolling when I could have been reading. So I said, let's read. Let's read. Let's read. I'll read. Let's prepare our minds, man. Let's get going, man. Let's get going. I love the feel of this book. Been putting together blockies and all type of shit, man. I gotta fix my I gotta get ready for the blockies to go back up with my damn to put on with the rest of them. I gotta get my blockage situated. Oh man. But we out here. We out here. We out here. I'm out here. I'm out here. I hope y'all look. When y'all come on in, man, hey, put a comment in the chat so I know the chat working. Like, comment, subscribe, share, tell your people Shalom out here reading shit, man. We trying to be better. We're trying to build some shit, learn some shit, do some shit, and push through some shit. Be better than we was yesterday and the day before that. And if not for me, if not for you, then for the ones that come after us or the ones that come after you, man, we got to be better. We got to be better examples. And it starts with us first. Lead the way. We got to lead the charge. Lead the charge. But before we get into chapter 12, man, we're going to read about an hour worth. About an hour worth. Shalom, shalom. Shalom, everybody. Ankit. Shalom, Ankit. Trying to see how long this chapter 12 is. Oh, it's a good little piece. We'll probably read about 6, 7, 8 pages. We'll see how much we can get in an hour. But before, we're about to read. But before we get to reading chapter 12, I'll get to starting in chapter 12, man, we're going to go ahead and work our body, work our mind, and work our body. That's the habit that I'm trying to build. And we've been going good with it. I've been going good with it. And we're going to try to keep it up. We're going to try to keep it up. Work our body, work your mind, work your body. That is the program. That is the routine, man. That is the program and the routine that I'm trying to keep moving forward. So, do you know it's haram for you to keep commenting that haram stuff? But anyway, in part of working our body today, I don't know what you're going to do. I only ask you to do 25 things. Do 25 things, man. I'm going to do 100. I'm going to do me, maybe 150. So by the end of the session, end of the episode, by the time we finish reading what we're going to read tonight, we're going to do another 100 something. You'll have done 50 if you do 25, and I'm going to have done 300 because I'm going to do about 150. I'm going to do 100 jumping jacks and about 50 push-ups, man. 50 push-ups and see what it is, and we're going to go from there, and then we're going to get to reading about the bourgeoisie prepares to restore the slavery, man, and the Black Jacobins, the Tucson Louverture, and the San Domingo Slave Revolution by C.L.R. James, man. Hey, we're going to keep pushing. Keep pushing. I hope you're ready. Get your ass up. Let's do it, man. Let's get it, man. 25 things. 25 things. Do 25. I'm going to do 100, man. Let's get it, man. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, 60, 61, 62, 63, 64, 65, 66, 67, 68, 69, 70, 71, 2, 73, 74, 75, 76, 77, 78, 79, 80, 81, 2, 83, 84, 85, 6, 87, 88, 89, 90, 91, 92, 3, 94, 95, 96, 97, 8, 99, 100. Ooh, I'm tired of them, bitch. Let's get it. 50 push-ups, man. 50 of them, boys. Let's get it, man. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 1, 2, 3, 24, 5, 6, 8, 9, 30, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 39, 40, 41. Hoo-wee. 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50. Push through it. Push through it. Now let's get it, man. Let's read. All right. Let's get it, man. Let's get it. Let me catch my breath. Let me see what the hell y'all talking about on here. Oh, well, let's get it. People talking some humbug. All right. Whew. We are here to read. Let's read. Let's work our mind now. Let's work our mind. All right. Chapter 12 of the Black Jacobins by C.L.R. James. C.L.R. James. Let's see what Mr. Toussaint or what Mr. C.L.R. James is talking about concerning Toussaint and concerning the bourgeoisie. Chapter 12. The bourgeoisie prepares to restore slavery. Move my beard out the way. Pirate on the sea of pages. Toussaint was perfectly right in his suspicions. What is the regime under which the colonies have been most prospered? Added Bonaparte. And on being told the ancient regime, he decided to restore it. Slavery and mulatto discrimination. Bonaparte hated black people. The revolution had appointed that brave and brilliant mulatto, General Dumas, commander-in-chief of one of the armies. But Bonaparte detested him for his color and persecuted him. Yet Bonaparte was no colonist, and his anti-Negro bias was far from influencing his major policies. He wanted profits for his supporters, and the clamorous colonists found in him a ready ear. The bourgeoisie of the maritime towns wanted the fabulous profits of the old days, and the passionate desire to free all humanity, which had called for Negro freedom in the one great days of the revolution, now humbled in the slums of Paris and Marseilles. Exhausted by its great efforts and terrorized by Bonaparte's bayonets and Fouche's police. But the abolition of slavery was one of the proudest memories of the revolution. And, much more important, the San Domingo blacks had an army and leaders trained to fight in the European manner. These were no savage tribesmen with spears, and against whom European soldiers armed with rifles could win undying glory. Occupied with his European campaigns, Bonaparte never lost sight on San Domingo, as he never lost sight of anything. His officers presented plan after plan, but British fleet and unknown strength of the blacks prevented action. And yet, early in March of 1801, a shift in his policy nearly compelled him to leave Toussaint in complete charge of San Domingo. Now, French and British bourgeoisie were in the middle of that struggle for world supremacy, which lasted over 20 years and devastated Europe. And Bonaparte aimed at India. And having missed his first spring by way of Egypt, he won over the Tsar Paul. And these two arranged to march overland and steal from the British what these had stolen from the Indians. Bonaparte could not fight in two hemispheres at once, and on March 4th, he wrote a letter to Toussaint, a letter beaming with goodwill. He had been busy, but now that peace was near, he had had time to read Toussaint's letters. He would appoint him captain general of the island, and he asked Toussaint to develop agriculture and build up the armed forces. And the time I hope, will not be far when the division from San Domingo will be able to contribute in your part of the world to glory and to the possessions of the Republic. But the British bourgeoisie, driven out of America, now fully realized the importance of India, and Pitt, in collusion with Paul's son Alexander, organized the murder of the pro-French Paul. And 7 days after the letter to Toussaint was written, Paul was strangled. And on the following day, the British fleet sailed into the Baltic. When Bonaparte heard, he knew at once that Pitt had beaten him, and the Indian raid was off. And the letter and instructions to Toussaint were never sent, and Bonaparte prepared to destroy Toussaint. I don't go back on your word now, my boy. It is Toussaint's supreme merit that while he saw European civilization as a valuable, and necessary thing and strove to lay its foundations among his people, he never had the illusion that it conferred any moral superiority. He knew French and British and Spanish imperialists for the insatiable gangsters that they were, and they still are, that there is no oath too sacred for them to break. No crime, deception, treachery, cruelty, destruction of human life and property which they would not commit against those who could not defend themselves. And when Vincent arrived in Paris, preparations were well underway, but the Constitution gave Bonaparte a convenient excuse. And poor Vincent had attempted to persuade Toussaint to give way to Bonaparte by condemning the Constitution as treason. And now he tried to persuade Bonaparte to give way to Toussaint by denying that the Constitution was treason. Bonaparte accused Toussaint of being sold to the British. Stoutly, Vincent defended him. Bonaparte swore at Vincent, cursed the gilded African, said that he would not leave the epaulette soldiers of a single nigger in the colony. Oh, you getting bold, huh, Bonaparte? You bold, huh? Vincent put it to him that Britain might assist Toussaint, and Bonaparte boasted that Britain had shown some inclination to oppose the expedition. But when he threatened to cloth Toussaint with the unlimited powers and acknowledge his independence, the British had kept silence. Now, Bonaparte thought that they dreaded the effect of the independent San Domingo on their own slave colony of Jamaica. But Pitt, Dundas, and Madeline were laughing in their sleeves and rubbing their hands in anticipation. Vincent tried to point out that the dangers of the expedition, and Bonaparte called Toussaint a revolted slave, called Vincent a coward, and drove him from his presence. Now, Vincent was appalled at Bonaparte's violence. And if this was the spirit in which the French were going to San Domingo, they were heading for a fall. As anxious now for France as for San Domingo, he took the bold step of addressing a memoir to the minister, and in which he tried to paint the strength of the colony and the extraordinary genius of the man who ruled there. At the head of so many resources, as a man the most active and tireless of whom one can possibly have any idea, it is the strictest truth to say that he is everywhere and above all, and in that spot where a sound judgment and danger make it essential for him to be, his great sobriety, the faculty accorded to him alone of never taking a rest, and the advantage he enjoys of being able to start at once with the work in his office after wearisome journeys, of replying to 100 letters a day and tiring out his secretaries. More than that, the art of tantalizing and confusing everybody, even to deceit. And all this makes him a man so superior to all around him that respect and submission reach the limits of fanaticism in a vast number of heads. And he has imposed on his brothers in San Domingo a power without bounds, and he is the absolute master of the island, and nothing can counteract his wishes, and whatever they may be, although some disgusted men, but very few blacks among them, know what are his plans and view them with great fear. Now, Vincent described Toussaint as superior to everyone in San Domingo. But if one reads the extract again, it becomes clear that this brave, honest, intelligent, and experienced officer was obviously describing the most extraordinary human being he had ever met in his life, with powers beyond what he thought possible. And in the writings of the contemporaries describing the great figures of the French Revolution and the Napoleonic era, one finds this note of astonishment. This I can't believe with my own eyes. Attitude and writings about only 3 men, Bonaparte, Nelson the sailor, and Toussaint. Bonaparte was so angry that he banished Vincent to the island of Elba. And personally loved and respected by all the contemporaries, Benson and Biafras failed, all as will fail, all who do not understand that in a revolution, each must choose his side and stick to it. But though Bonaparte might shoot nigger in the best slave-owning manner, more than anyone in France, he divined the difficulties. And at first, he had thought it easy. The colonists who had fled in the early days of the revolution thought of the slaves as a motley crowd of black brigands who would fly at the first sight of white men. And how could such cowed and trembling niggers ever be anything else? They had defeated the British. Nonsense. That was fever. General McCall of the last commission, who had not seen Toussaint's armies in action, called his officers a collection of conceited incompetents. But Room, Pascal, and Vincent, all of whom liked the blacks and therefore knew what they were capable of, were against any expedition. And Pascal said that more enlightened of the blacks, i.e., those who had been free before the revolution, did not love Toussaint, but 49/50ths of the population followed him blindly, regarding him as being inspired by God. And Room's attitude was most astonishing. Room was not even a Frenchman, but a Creole from Tobago. And yet, despite his rough treatment at the hands of Toussaint, he still retained his belief in Toussaint's devotion to France. And he wrote that Toussaint had acted irregularly, but of his fear of slavery, and let Bonaparte cloth him with full civil and military power and reassure him about the future. And at the end of the war, he would hand back the colony. Now, Malenfant, an old colonist who was now an official in San Domingo, was offered a post in the expedition, and he drafted the memorandum full of praise for Toussaint and the laborers, and warned Bonaparte against the catastrophe he was preparing. And when he met Leclerc, the captain general, a few days before the fleet sailed, Leclerc accused him of cowardice. All the niggers, when they see an army, will lay down their arms, and they will be only too happy that we pardon them. You are misinformed, General. Tell him, you are misinformed, General. But there is a colonist who has offered to arrest Toussaint in the interior of the country with 60 grenadiers. He is bolder than I, for I would not attempt it with 60,000. He is very rich, Toussaint. He has more than 40 millions. Now, patiently, Malenfant pointed out to him that it was impossible for Toussaint to have this sum, and Malenfant shared Room's opinions of Toussaint. He said afterwards that if Bonaparte had sent Laveau to San Domingo with 3,000 men, all would have been well, and Toussaint was an eminently reasonable man, and he and Laveau would have worked out a modus vivendi, whereby French capital would have had full opportunity in the island. And it was not to be. Leclerc pooh-poohed Malenfant's remonstrances and dismissed him, and Bonaparte never had any such foolish ideas. Vincent had told him of the strength of Toussaint's army, which is soldiers and officers tried and experienced by 10 years of constant fighting, and the great soldier added more and more men to the force. And so as to avoid too much talk, he distributed his preparations in every harbor in France and Holland and Belgium, and the preliminaries of peace were signed on October 1st, 1801. Now, 8 days after Bonaparte gave the word, and even the delay of adverse winds held up the expedition only until December 14th. It was the largest expedition that had ever sailed from France, consisting of 20,000 veteran troops under some of Bonaparte's ablest officers. And the chief of staff was Dugas, whom Bonaparte had left in charge of Egypt when he set out on the march of Palestine. Now, Dugas had commanded the advance guard, and Desiix, whose, let's see how to pronounce it, Dessiiax, Dessiiax, Dessiiax. I mean, Dessaix. Dessaix. Let's see if we get a pronunciation. Wow, let's mark it while it's looking it up. Duce. The advance guard of Duce, whose last-minute attack had saved Bonaparte from the disastrous defeat at Marengo, and Boyer had commanded the mobile guards which patrolled Upper Egypt. Now, Humbert Humbert had commanded the expedition against Ireland, and there were men who had experience of guerrilla warfare in Levante, and General Pamphile de Lecroix, who sailed with the expedition and wrote a valuable history of the campaign and the San Domingo Revolution, has left us his opinion. The army of Leclerc was composed of an infinite number of soldiers with great talent, good strategists, great tacticians, officers of engineers and artillery, and well educated and very resourceful. And at the last moment, Bonaparte charged the command, putting his brother-in-law Leclerc at the head, and a sign of the importance he attached to the venture. Now, Pauline, Leclerc's wife, and her son went with the expedition, and she carried musicians, artists, and all of the paraphernalia of the court. And slavery would be reestablished, civilization restarted, and a good time would be had by all. Yeah, right. Toussaint gonna smash y'all asses. And in these last crucial months, Toussaint, fully aware of Bonaparte's preparations, were busy sawing off the branch of which he sat. And in the north, around Plaisance, Limbe, and Dundon, the vanguard of the revolution was not satisfied with the new regime. Toussaint's discipline was hard, but it was infinitely better than old slavery. And what these old revolutionary blacks objected to was working for their white masters. Now, Mouzé was the commandant of the North Province, and Mouzé sympathized with the blacks. Work, yes, but not for whites. And whatever my old uncle may do, I cannot bring myself to be the executioner of my color. And it is always in the interest of the metropolis that he scolds me. But these interests are those of the whites, and I shall only love them when they have given me back the eye that they made me lose in battle. Tell him, Mouzé. Gone were the days when Toussaint would leave the front and ride through the night to inquire into the grievances of the laborers, and, though protecting the whites, make the laborers see that he was their leader. Now, revolutionaries, through and through, these bold men, own brothers of the Cordeliers in Paris and the Viborg workers of Petrograd, organized another insurrection, and their aim was to massacre the whites, overthrow Toussaint's government, and some hoped put Mouzé in his place. Every observer, and Toussaint himself, thought that the laborers were following him because of his past services and his unquestioned superiority. This insurrection proved that I lost my place. This insurrection proved that they were following him because he represented that complete emancipation from their former degradation, which was their chief goal. And as soon as they saw that he was no longer going to this end, they were ready to throw him over. This was no mere riot of a few discontented or lazy blacks. It was widespread over the North. And the revolutionaries chose a time when Toussaint was away at Petite Riviere, attending a wedding of Dessalines, and the moment should have begun in Le Cap on September 21st, but Christophe heard of it just in time to check the first outburst in various quarters of the town. And on the 22nd and 23rd, the revolt burst into the revolutionary districts of Marmalade, Plaisance, Limbe, Port Margat, and Dundon, home of the famous regiment of the Saskelets. And on the morning of the 23rd, it broke out again in Le Cap, while armed bands, killing all the whites, whom they met on the way, appeared in the suburbs to make contact with those in the town. Now, while Christophe defeated these, Toussaint and Dessalines marched against the rise in Marmalade and Dundon, and it fell to pieces before him and his terrible lieutenant. Now, Mouzé, avoiding a meeting with Toussaint, attacked and defeated another band, but blacks in certain districts had revolted to the cry of "Long live Mouzé," and Toussaint therefore had him arrested and would not allow the military tribunal even to hear him, and the documents, he said, were enough. I flatter myself that the commissioners will not delay a judgment so necessary to the tranquility of the colony, and he was afraid that Mouzé might supplant him. Upon this hint, the commission gave judgment and Muse was shot. He died as he had lived. He stood before the place of execution in the presence of the troops of the garrison and in a firm voice gave the word to the firing squad. Fire, my friends, fire. Tell him, Muse. What exactly did Muse stand for? We shall never know. 40 years after his death, Madu, the Haitian historian, gave an outline of Muse's program, whose authenticity, however, has been questioned, and Toussaint refused to break up the large estate. Now, Muse wanted small grants of land for junior officers and even the rank and file, and Toussaint favored the whites against the mulattoes. Now, Muse sought to build an alliance between the blacks and the mulattoes against the French. And it is certain that he had a strong sympathy for the laborers and hated the old slave owners. But he was not anti-white. He bitterly regretted the indignities to which he had been forced to submit Rome, and we know how highly he esteemed Santanax. And we have very little to go on, but it seems to have been a singularly attractive and possible profound person. And old slave owners hated him, and they pressed Toussaint to get rid of him. Now, Christophe, too, was jealous of Muse, and Christophe loved white society. Guilty or not guilty of treason, Muse had too many enemies to escape the implications of the long live Muse shouted by the revolutionaries. And to the blacks of the North, already angry at Toussaint's policy, the execution of Muse was a final disillusionment. They could not understand it, as was and is inevitable that they thought in terms of color. And after Toussaint himself, Muse, his nephew, symbolized the revolution. He it was who had led the laborers against Hudeville and he also had led the insurrection, which extorted the authority from Rome to take over Spanish San Domingo, an insurrection which to the laborers had been for the purpose of stopping the Spanish tariffs on slaves. Now Muse had arrested Rome and later Vincent, and now Toussaint had shot him, and for taking the part of the blacks against the whites. Toussaint recognized his error. And if the break with the French and Vincent had shaken him from his usual calm in their last interview, it was nothing to the remorse which moved him after the execution of Muse. Now, none who knew him had ever seen him so agitated, and he tried to explain it away in a long proclamation. Muse was the soul of the insurrection. Muse was a young man of loose habits. It was useless. Muse had stood too high in his councils for too long. But so set was Toussaint that he could only think of the further repression. And why should the blacks support Muse against him? That question he did not stop to ask, or, if did, failed to appreciate the answer. And in the district of the insurrection, he shot without mercy. He lined up the laborers and spoke to them in turn. And on the basis of the stumbling answer or uncertainty, decided who should be shot. Cowed by his power, they submitted. And he published a series of laws surpassing in severity anything he had yet decreed. He introduced a rigid passport system for all classes of the population. He confined the laborers to their plantations more strictly than ever, and he made the managers and foremen responsible for this law under pain of imprisonment. And anyone fomenting disorder could be condemned to 6 months hard labor with a weight attached to his foot by a chain. And he prohibited the soldiers from visiting the plantation except to see their fathers or mothers, and then only for a limited period. He was now afraid of the contact between the Revolutionary Army and the people, an infallible sign of revolutionary degeneration. And while he broke the morale of the black masses, he labored to reassure the whites. You've fallen off and fucking up, Toussaint. Some of them rejoiced openly at the rumors of the expedition, and Toussaint, instead of treating them as he had treated the laborers, merely deported them. And there were others, we need not doubt, who, holding the same views, thought it wiser to keep their mouths shut. and a substantial number, however, accepted the new order and viewed with dismay the violence and destruction which they knew were inevitable if the French expedition came. And some began to leave and ask for passports. And one of the most notable Creoles in San Domingo, a man of good education and judgment, who fully accepted the new San Domingo, came to Toussaint and asked him for a passport. Here was what Toussaint dreaded: the breakup of the unstable regime before it had had a chance to acquire cohesion. And he went quickly to the door to see that he was not likely to be overheard, and a characteristic action. Then coming back, he looked the Nogrier, full in the face and asked him, "Why do you want to go away, you whom I esteem and love?" "Because I am white, and notwithstanding the kindly feelings you have for me, I see that you are about to become the irritated chief of the blacks." And with some injustice, he accused Toussaint of deporting those whites who had rejoiced at the coming of the expedition. Toussaint justified his actions with warmth, and they had had the imprudence and folly to rejoice at such news, as if the expedition was not destined to destroy me, to destroy the whites, to destroy the colony. And with the mind, such as his, essentially creative and orderly, this was the prospect which preoccupied him and warped his judgment. In France, I am represented as an independent power, and therefore they are aiming against me, who refused General Matlin's offer to establish my independence under the protection of England, and who always rejected the proposal which Santonax made to me on the subject. He knew that the expedition was on its way, but still he hoped that somehow the coming catastrophe might be averted. And since, however, you wish to set out for France, I consent, but at least let your voyage be useful to the colony. I will send letters to the First Consul by you, and I will entreat him to listen to you, and tell him about me. Tell him how prosperous agriculture is, how prosperous is commerce. In a word, tell him that what I have done, and it is according to all I have done here that I ought and that I wish to be judged. 20 times I have written to Bonaparte to ask him to send civil commissioners, to tell him to dispatch hither the old colonists, whites instructed in administering public affairs, good machinists, good workmen. He has never replied, and suddenly he avails himself of the peace of which he has not deigned to inform me, of which I learn only through the English, in order to direct against me a formidable expedition, in the ranks of which I see my personal enemies and people injurious to the colony, who I sent away. Come to me within 24 hours. I want, oh how I want you, and my letters, to arrive in time to make the First Consul change his determination, to make him see that in ruining me, he ruins the blacks, ruins not only San Domingo, but all the Western colonies. And if Bonaparte is the first man in France, Toussaint is the first man in the archipelago of the Antilles. And he had no false modesty as to what he meant into San Domingo. He reflected for a moment, then said in a firm tone that he had been making arrangement with the English to get 20,000 blacks from Africa, but not for treachery, to make them soldiers of France. And I know the perfidy of the English. I am under no obligation to them for the information they gave me as to the expedition to come into San Domingo. No, never will I arm for them. But reality forced itself on him again. I took up arms for the freedom of my color, which France alone proclaimed, but which she has no right to nullify. Our liberty is no longer in her hands. It is in our own, and we will defend it or perish. This strange duality, so confusing to his people, who had to do the fighting and continued to the very end, and yet, in this moment of his greatest uncertainty, So different from his usual clarity of mind and vigor of action, Toussaint showed himself one of those few men for whom power is the means to an end, the development of civilization, the betterment of his fellow creatures, and his very hesitations were a sign of the superior caste in his mind. Dessalines and Musset would not have hesitated. He issued another proclamation and devoted most of it to the reassuring the white proprietors who will always find in us ardent protectors, true friends, and zealous defenders. Come on, Toussaint. Come on now. What did all this mean to the former slaves? When he touched the expedition, the confusion of his mind was evident in every line. Men of good faith would not be able any longer to believe that France, who abandoned San Domingo to herself at a time when her enemies disputed possession, will now send them there an army to destroy the men who have not ceased to serve her will. After thus sowing doubt in the minds of the people as to the intentions of the French, he continued, but if it so happens that this crime of which the French government is suspected is real, it suffices for me to say that a child who knows the rights that nature has given over it to the author of its days shows itself obedient and submissive towards its father and mother. And if, in spite of the submission and obedience, the father and mother are unnatural enough to wish to destroy it, there remains no other course than to place its vengeance in the hands of God. So God was to defend the blacks from slavery. And what of the army and the people and himself their leader? Brave soldiers, generals, officers, and rank and file, do not listen to the wicked. I shall show you the road you ought to follow. I am a soldier. I am afraid of no man, and I fear only God. If I must die, it shall be as a soldier of honor with no fear of reproach. Toussaint could not believe that the French ruling class would be so depraved, so lost to all sense of decency, as to try to restore slavery, and his grasp of politics led him to make all preparations. But he could not admit to himself and to his people that it is easier to find decency, gratitude, justice, and humanity in a cage of starving tigers than in the councils of imperialism, whether in the cabinets of Pitt or Bonaparte, of Baldwin, Laval, or Blum. Now, criticism is not enough. What should Toussaint have done? 100, he should not kill Musset. That's what he should have not done. He should have not killed Musset and lined himself with Musset is what he should have did. 150 years of history, but that's my bad. I'm saying that, but that's, looking at it from now. That's looking at it from now. 150 years of history and the scientific study of the revolution began by Marx and Engels and amplified by Lenin and Trotsky justify us in pointing to an alternative course. Now, Lenin and the Bolsheviks after the October Revolution faced much of the same problem as Toussaint. Russian bourgeois culture was the relatively poor thing, but Lenin admitted frankly that it was superior to that of the proletariat and would have to be used until the proletariat had developed itself. And he rigidly excluded the bourgeoisie from the political power. But he proposed that they should be given important posts and good salaries, higher than those of Communist Party members. And even some communists who had suffered and fought under Tsarism, were after a time dismissed and replaced by competent bourgeois. And we can measure Toussaint's gigantic intellect by the fact that, untrained as he was, he attempted to do the same, and his black army and generals filling the political roles of the Bolshevik party, my bad. If he had kept the whites in his army, It was for the same reason that the Bolsheviks also kept czarist officers. And neither revolution had enough trained and educated officers of its own. And the black Jacobins, relatively speaking, were far worse off culturally than the Russian Bolsheviks. The whole theory of the Bolshevik policy was that the victories of the new regime would gradually win over those who had been constrained to accept it by force, and Toussaint hoped for the same. And if he failed, it is for the same reason that the Russian Socialist Revolution failed. Even after all its achievements, the defeat of the Revolution of Europe. Had the Jacobins been able to consolidate the Democratic Republic in 1794, Haiti would have remained, a French colony, but an attempt to restore slavery would have been most unlikely. And it was in method and not in principle that Toussaint failed. And the race question is subsidiary to the class question in politics. And to think of imperialism in terms of race is disastrous. But to neglect the racial factor is merely incidental as an error, only less grave than to make it fundamental. There were Jacobin workmen in Paris who would have fought for the blacks against Bonaparte's troops. But the international movement was not then what it is today. And there was none in San Domingo. And the black laborers saw only the old slave-only whites. These would accept the new regime, but never to the extent of fighting for it against the French army. And the masses knew this. Let me see, how far can I go? We keep going. Toussaint, of course, knew this also, and he never trusted Agui, his chief of staff, who was a Frenchman, and asked Agui's junior, Lamartiniere, to keep an eye on him. But whereas Lenin kept the party and the masses thoroughly aware of every step and explained carefully the exact position of the bourgeois servants of the workers' state, Toussaint explained nothing and allowed the masses to think that their old enemies were being favored at their expense. And in allowing himself to be looked upon as taking the side of the whites against the blacks, Toussaint committed the unpardonable crime in the eyes of the community where the whites stood for so much evil, and that they should get back their property was bad enough, and that they should be privileged was intolerable, and to shoot Mouzet, the black, for the sake of the whites was more than an error, it was a crime. And it was almost as if Lenin had had Trotsky shot for taking the side of the proletariat against the bourgeoisie. Toussaint's position was extraordinarily difficult, and San Domingo was, after all, a French colony. Granted that, before the expedition was a certainty, plain speech was impossible. And once he understood that it was coming, there should have been no hesitation. He should have declared that a powerful expedition could have no other aim than the restoration of slavery, and summoned the population to resist, declared independence, confiscated the property of all who refused to accept the distribution, all who refused to accept, and distributed it among his supporters. Now, Agui and the other white officers should have been given the plain choice, accept or leave. And if they had accepted, intending to be traitors, the black officers would have been on guard against them, and the men would have known where they stood and would have shot them at the slightest vacillation before the enemy. That's what I'm talking about. The whites should have been offered the same choice, except the black regime, which has guaranteed and will guarantee your property or leave. Traitors of wartime would be dealt with as all traitors in war. And many of the planters favored independence. They would have stayed and contributed their knowledge, such as it was, to the new state. And not only former slaves had followed Toussaint, but Lamartiniere was a mulatto, so white so white that only those who knew his origins could tell that he had Negro ancestry. But he was absolutely and completely devoted to the cause of Toussaint, and so was Maurepas, an old free black. And with Dessalines, Belair, Mouzet, and the hundreds of other officers, ex-slave and formerly free, it would have been easy for Toussaint to get the mass of the population behind him, having the army, some of the better educated blacks and mulattoes, and the laborers who had supported him so staunchly in everything. He would have been invincible. And with the issue unobscure and his power clear, many who might otherwise have hesitated would have come down on the side that was taking decisive action. With the decisive victory won, it was not impossible to reopen negotiations with the chastened French government to establish the hope for relations. It was the ex-slave laborers and the ex-slave army which would decide the issue, and Toussaint's policy crippled both. He left the army with a divided allegiance. Excuse me. He left the army with a divided allegiance, and there were Frenchmen in it whose duty would be to fight for France. And they, the mulattoes and the old free blacks, had no fears about their liberty. And instead of bringing the black laborers nearer, he drove them away from him. And even after the revolt, it was not too late. Lenin crushed the Kronstadt revolt with the relentless hand, but in a manner so abrupt as to call forth protests from sticklers for party discipline. He proposed a new economic policy immediately afterwards. It was this quick recognition of danger that saved the Russian Revolution, and Toussaint crushed the revolt as he was bound to do. But instead of recognizing the origin of the revolt as springing from the fear of the same enemy that he was arming against, he was sterner than the revolutionaries, than he had ever been before. And it happened that the day on which Mouzet was executed, November 21st, was the very day fixed by Bonaparte for the departure of the expedition. And instead of reprisals, Toussaint should have covered the country, and in the homely way that he understood so well, mobilized the masses, talked to the people, explained the situation to them, and told them what he wanted them to do. As it was, the policy had persisted and reduced the masses to a state of stupor. And it has been said that he was thinking of the effect in France, and his severity and his proclamation reassuring the whites aimed at showing Bonaparte that all classes were safe in San Domingo and that he could be trusted to govern the colony in justice. And it was probably true and is his greatest condemnation. I'll stop there. Let's see. I'm going to stop there for right now. Hell no, I'm going to keep going. I got one and a half pages. Now, Bonaparte was not going to be convinced by Toussaint's justice and fairness and capacity to govern. Where imperialists do not find disorder, they create it deliberately, as Hitlerville did. And they want an excuse for going in, but they can find that easily and will go in even without any. It is force that counts, and chiefly the organized force of the masses. Now, always particularly at the moment of struggle, a leader must think of his own masses, and it is what they think that matters, not what the imperialists think. And if to make matters clear that to them, Toussaint had to condone a massacre of the whites, so much the worse for the whites. And he had done everything possible for them. And if the race question occupied the place that it did in San Domingo, it was not the fault of the blacks. But Toussaint, like Robespierre, destroyed his own left wing and with it sealed his own doom. And the tragedy was that there was no need for it. Robespierre struck at the masses because he was bourgeois and they were communists, and that clash was inevitable, and regrets over it are in vain. But between Toussaint and his people, there was no fundamental difference of outlook or of aim. And knowing the race question for the political and the social question that it was, he tried to deal with it in a purely political and social way. It was a grave error. Lenin, in his thesis to the Second Congress of the Communist International, warned the white revolutionaries, a warning that they badly need, that such has been the effect of the policy of imperialism on the relationship between advanced and backwards people, that European communists will have to make wide concessions to natives of colonial countries in order to overcome the justified prejudice which these feel toward all classes in the oppressing countries. Now, Toussaint, after his power grew, forgot that. He ignored the black laborers, bewildered them at the very moment that he needed them most. And to bewilder the masses is to strike the deadliest of all blows to the revolution. His personal weakness, the obverse side of his strength, played its part also, and he left even his generals in the dark, and a natural, silent, and reserved man, he had been formed by military discipline. He gave orders and expected them to be obeyed, and nobody ever knew what he was doing. He said suddenly that Santanax must go and invited his general to sign the letter or not, as they pleased. And when Vincent spoke to Christophe and Musée about the Constitution, they knew nothing about it. Musée's bitter complaint about Toussaint and the whites came obviously from a man to whom Toussaint had never explained the motives of his policy. They would not have needed much persuasion to follow a bold lead, and Musée was feeling his way towards it. And we can point out that Toussaint's weakness all the more clearly because Dessalines had actually found the correct method. His speech to the army was famous, and another version, he probably made it more than once, ran this way. If France wishes to try any nonsense here, everybody must rise together, men and women. Loud acclamations greeted this bold pronouncement, and worth 1,000 of Toussaint's equivocal proclamations, reassuring the whites. Dessalines had not the slightest desire to reassure the whites. Now, the whites were whites of the old regime. And Dessalines did not care what they said or thought. And the black laborers had to do the fighting. And it was they who needed reassurance. And it was not that Toussaint had any illusions about the whites. He had none whatever. And when the war had actually begun, he sent a curt message to his commanders: leave nothing white behind you. But the mischief had been done. And yet Toussaint's error sprang from the very qualities that made him what he was. It is easy to see today, as his generals saw after he was dead, where he had erred. And it does not mean that they or any of us would have done better in his place. And if Dessalines could see so clearly and simply, it was because the ties that bound this uneducated soldier to French civilization were of the slenderest. And he saw what was under his nose so well because he saw no further. Toussaint's failure was the failure of enlightenment and not of darkness. And in the last days of December, the fleet of Admiral Villaret-Joyeuse, bearing on board the first detachment of 12,000 men, sailed into the harbor of Samana Bay, and Toussaint, standing alone on the neighboring peak, watched the vessels. Unaccustomed to naval armaments, he was overwhelmed by their number, and as he returned to his staff, he uttered the words, "We shall perish. All France has come to overwhelm us." It was not fear. He was never afraid, but certain traits of character run deep in great men. And despite all that he had done, he was at bottom. The same Toussaint who had hesitated to join the revolution in 1791 and from 1 whole month he protected his master's plantation from destruction. Only this time it was not a plantation and a few score slaves, but a colony of hundreds of thousands of people. And that was chapter 12. That was chapter 12. Chapter 12, we have read the whole thing. I made it through, baby. I thought I was going to only read half, but I succeeded. I succeeded in reading all of chapter 12 of The Black Jacobins, the Toussaint Louverture and the San Domingo Revolution by C.L.R. James, the sea of pages that he led before us. And since I had breath to breathe, I had all that I need to succeed, and I succeeded. And I succeeded in little, and we're going to succeed in big by finishing. We have one more chapter left, chapter 13, which is going to be long as shit. Chapter 13 is long as shit. Chapter 13 is almost the rest of the book. But we have chapter 13 and the appendix left to read. Chapter 13 is called The War of Independence. The War of Independence. And this is it. That's all chapter 13 right here. That is a lot. Chapter 13 is the biggest chapter of the book. And then we have the bibliography, but we're going to skip the bibliography. And we're going to run to the appendix. The appendix is from Toussaint Louverture to Fidel Castro. And that runs to about here. And then we have the index. I'm not reading the index. So we got chapter 13 and the appendix left to read. And the appendix stops on page. We got to go from page 289 to page 377. 289 to 377, man. It's a long way, baby. That's a long way. We're going to push through. We're going to push through and persevere. And then the appendix is from 392 to, I'll take it back. The appendix is from 391 to 418. Yeah, to 418. We'll come back and finish that off. And that'll be the book Assassinated after that. After that, that'll be the 27th assassination for me, baby. Ooh, like John Wick. The John Wick of books. I ain't there yet. I am not there yet. Let me stop playing. I'm not there yet. I still have a ways to go, but I gotta keep going. I gotta keep going. I gotta keep going, and we got a couple of more books to read, man. We got more than a couple of books to read. I really want to start a children's edition. A children's edition of Reading with Shiloh. I just got in about 20 children's books. Desmond Cole and the Ghost Patrol, and there's 25 books in the series. There's 25 books in the series, but I only have 20. Next month I'll order three more of the books, because book 24 and book 25 aren't out yet. So I'll be waiting on those. But I'll have, by next month, I'll have from book 1 to book 25. Book 23, from book 1 to book 23. And that's enough books to read through, at least for the children's section, or the children's time. So if you have, if you know any children, anybody, or you have children who you think would be interested in the Desmond Cole Ghost Patrol series, man, put it in the comments. Let me know. Let me know and I'll try to come up with a good time. I gotta figure out how I'm gonna read it. I gotta figure, because it has pictures, and I want to be able to show the pictures. I just don't want to be sitting here reading like I'm reading now. I want it to be able to be seen. I want them to be able to see what's in the book and show the pages as well. So I might have to find another way to prop up the camera. Desmond Cole and the Ghost Patrol. We already read book 3, and that's what made me get the. I read book 3 to my children, to my sons before they went to sleep. It took us a couple of nights, but hey, we made through it. Bedtime stories, whatnot. So I think I want to start doing that. I think I want to start doing that as well. Whew. Matter of fact, I hadn't even counted them books. The books that I read to my boys on the on the assassination. Yeah, they don't count. Yeah, but they do. They count. I haven't counted them when it came to the assassinations of these books. But hey, I've been assassinating some books. Getting it in. We're about to keep working our way through. Through some books, man. About to keep working our way through some books. But hey, this has been part 20 or episode 20 of the Black Jacobins book. It's time for us to, get our workout on, work our body, work our mind, work our body. That is the routine. That is the routine that we set forth. And we're going to try to keep up with that routine, man. We're going to try to keep up with that routine. Whew. I'm starting to get tired now. Tired now and cold now. But, I think we did a good job, man. I think I did a good job. I ran through chapter 12, man. I really only thought I was going to read half of that thing. I was going to come back tomorrow with a new session. A new session for chapter 12. But anyway, man, let's go ahead and get these jumping jacks in. Let's go ahead and like, comment, subscribe, share, tell your people. SHILO out here reading shit, doing shit, we learning shit, building shit. To include us. As part of the build. We are part of the build. We are part of the restoration. The throwing the new paint on. Tearing down the old walls and putting new walls up. New foundations being laid. Excuse me. New foundations being laid. Insurrections of the mind is happening. We're burning down plantations. Burn them plantations of the mind down. Burn that propaganda down. So that way we can rebuild and replant some new stuff to take root. Better things, a better natural root to take place in your mind. After you burn some shit down, the ground becomes more fertile. Maybe that's what I should do to my garden area. Maybe I should burn it. Maybe I should burn it. Maybe that's what I should do. I should burn it and then dig it up. Maybe that's what I should do to help put some of that, whatever it is that the burned soil does, back into the soil. But anyway, man, let's go ahead and get these 100 damn jumping jacks together. 100 jumping jacks and 50 damn push-ups. And that's going to put me at 300 things. 300 things for this session. 300 things for this session. Episode 20, part 20 of Reading with Me, SHILO. I'm out here, baby. Let's get it. Get off your ass, man. Get off your ass. Let's do something, man. We gotta get better. Get better, get better, get better. Let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh shit. Let me pick them up. Let me tie them out shit first. 4. 4. My shit don't fall. All right, there we go. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, 60, 61, 62, 63, 64, 65, 66, 67, 68, 69, 70, 71, 72, 73, 74, 75, 76, 77, 78, 79, 80, 81, 82, 83, 84, 85, 86, 87, 88, 89, 90, 91, 92, 3, 4, 95, 6, 97, 98, 99, 100. Oh shit, 100. 100 bad boys. That's 200 jumping jacks for the episode. Let's get 50. Ooh. Let's get 50, man. Ooh-wee. I like that my stump been getting some work, baby. My stump been getting work for years. I used to do 1,000 push-ups a day off the stump till I hurt my shoulder. Let's get it though. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 4, 25, 25, 24, 23, 22, 21, 20, 19, 19, 18, 17, 16, 15, 14, 14, 14, let's keep going, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Shit. I'm in that thing. 300 things. 300 things for the episode. I did 300 things for the episode. How many you did? Oh, man. How many have you done? Shit. Trying to get this going, baby. I'm not fat, but I feel fat. I hate feeling fat. Oh, I hate feeling fat, man. But, you know, my boys be trying to jump me, so I gotta stay in shape. They be trying to tag team me, so I gotta be able to hit them with a wingtip. Boom, get back. Boom. Bum, bum, bum. 2B, bum, bum. Hit him in the thigh. Bum. Get back. Get back. You want to jump your daddy? Shit. Shit. It is what it is, man. Hey, shalom, everybody. Shalom. Welcome. Welcome. If it was your first time to the channel. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Let's keep going. Let's keep growing, baby. Let's keep going and let's keep growing. If you have breath to breathe, then you have all you need to succeed, baby. And we're going to succeed. And I'm succeeding at reading. Rolling through. Big pirate on the Sea of Pages, baby. That's why I'm a big pirate on the Sea of Pages. Scouring them things for the treasures. I'm scouring the Sea of Pages for the treasures. And we're going to have to dive deep sometimes like Jacques Cousteau to find it, baby. Because they didn't sunk them. They didn't sunk them to the bottom of the Sea of Pages, baby. And they keep telling us lies. But they know where they didn't sunk them at. They know. They got the maps. They know what Sea of Pages they sunk the truths in. They sunk the treasures in. It's in there. It's in there. We just got to go find them. Like One Piece. And right now I'm rowing, baby. I'm going to continue rowing by myself still. But you know, I'm going to row. I'm going to row. Luffy was by himself at the beginning, rowing. But he had big dreams. He wanted to be king of the pirates. King of the Pirates. That's where I'm heading, baby. King of the Pirates to the Sea of Pages. Big low. Big shallow. Big beard shallow. Shallow hammer. Destroyer worlds. Shit. Trying to destroy that minuscule world in your mind. We bigger. We better than that. The whole world, the universe is ours. Let's take it. Let's take it. But the revolution starts with yourself. And just like me, the revolution starts with me. I got to make a change for myself. The same way you have to make a change for yourself. And we can do it, baby. We can do it. Let's do it. Let's get up and do it. Let's get it. Let's get it. Let's get it. Changes to be made. Man, I need to holler at that boy with that natural brush. That natural brush. Keep my beard looking right. For when I'm rowing on the Sea of Pages that late at night. Oh, man. Hey, yeah, but till next time, I hope everybody enjoyed it. I hope everybody enjoyed the reading. Keep pushing one day at a time, one book at a time, one session at a time, one episode at a time, one page at a time, one chapter at a time, line upon line, until we seek and find all the truths that has been laid within the Sea of Pages, the treasures that have been laid within the Sea of Pages. What can we use to help us grow? What can we use to help us adjust, make adjustments, and make changes within our lives? What can we take from what we read and apply? What can we apply to become better yous, a better me? Till next time, everybody. I'm out here. Shalom. Shalom.